game. It's a rants thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of the Jayden Bryce Show, the show where we talk about the latest, hottest topics in the world of sports. We had a phenomenal, and I mean phenomenal, slate of football over the weekend. We had a lot of upsets. We had Texas losing to Florida. We had Penn State losing to a team who isn't even relevant when it comes to college football. Their fans don't even go to their games in UCLA. And then, of course, the NFL. We had my Dallas Cowboys, Miley whopping the Jets. We had the Patriots, first prime time game that I can remember in a very long while. Show up and show out, and Drake May gets his signature win in his career. We had the Commanders taking down the Chargers in very shocking fashion. And most importantly, finally, the Philadelphia Eagles lose a ball game. I was super happy about that as well. So we got a lot of things that we're going to get to today. And what I just mentioned is what we're going to get to. It was a great day. But before we get into everything, do not hesitate to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me. Like my podcast. And check out my podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Now, something that really occurred to me while watching the Cowboys yesterday, and I have to be brutally honest, it's pretty much what if the Dallas Cowboys had a pretty potent offense? Sorry, not a pretty potent offense, but a pretty potent defense. What if the Cowboys defensively were maybe middle of the pack instead of dead last? This team could compete for the Super Bowl. Dak Prescott, again, as I iterated last week, is playing the best football, I think, since his rookie year. Yes, it is better than his finished second MVP voting year back in 2022. I think he's playing better than that. This is the best the run game has looked in a very long while. The offensive line play has been phenomenal. And don't even get me started with Brian Schottenheimer and the type of scheme, him and Clayton Adams, they have just done wonders for the offense of my Dallas Cowboys. And through 5 weeks, the Dallas Cowboys currently, if I'm 100% correct, have the number one offense in the NFL. Dak Prescott is second in the NFL in pass yards. Javonte Williams is second in rush yards. George Pickens is second in receiving touchdowns. Jake Ferguson is second in receptions. Brian Schottenheimer is getting everyone involved. This is something we didn't see with Mike McCarthy. They were very CD reliant. And going into this game, a lot of people were saying, oh, granted, we had one starting offensive tackle start yesterday from our regular starting five. And he is arguably, and I can agree to this, I don't even think it's an argument, he is the weakest link on our offensive line in Terrence Steele at right tackle. So you had Nate Thomas at left tackle. You had Brock Hoffman at center, who was very good. TJ Bass at right guard, if I'm not mistaken. Left guard was Adenji. So you had 4 guys. And a lot of them were undrafted free agents and 7th round picks on the O-line. And it looked like they didn't miss a beat yesterday. Dak Prescott was surgical. His stats do not knock you off your feet. If I'm looking at, he was 18 for 29. His completion percentage wasn't really high. He was at 237 yards, but he had 4 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Did not turn the ball over. Played super efficient. Javonte Williams, 8.5 yards a carry. Brian Flournoy, everybody talking about CeeDee Lamb's being out, and this is a very frustrating thing when I see a lot of mass media. Granted, not a lot of these people are not married to the Dallas Cowboys like I am. I dissect this team. I consume them. I know them like the back of my hand. And I knew a lot of these players have potential that are playing well for the Dallas Cowboys. When it comes to O-line, Javonte Williams, Jayden Blue, he's going to get his chance soon. And this guy here, Ryan Flournoy. A lot of people were like, oh, CeeDee Lamb's out. I knew George Pickens was going to ball. Ryan Flournoy, a guy who I've been advocating for as the wide receiver 4 or 3. I think he's better than Jalen Tolbert. I think he's potentially going to be better than Mingo. And he had a coming out party yesterday. Flournoy had 114 yards. Put this into perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Let's compare that to the Philadelphia Eagles and A.J. Brown. In one game, Flournoy had more yards than what A.J. Brown has had in 4 out of the 5 games that A.J. Brown's played in. Maybe 3 out of the 5. That is what Ryan Flournoy did in his game yesterday. And now let's move on to the defense. We know we can glaze the offense, but we know the reason why that we cannot truly jump onto the Cowboys bandwagon, so to speak, and call them Super Bowl contenders or an elite ball club is because of the defense. Now, I think the defense took a step forward yesterday. Why? Because they finally were able to get somewhat resemblant of a pass rush. If I'm seeing mistakenly here, I don't think I can look up the team's pressures. I might have to go by the box score defensively. I don't know how many pressures they had, but as a unit, they had 5 sacks yesterday. That was pretty good. That's a massive upgrade than what we're used to and what the Dallas Cowboys have been doing. James Houston, getting back there. James Houston, he had 2.5 sacks himself, if I'm not mistaken. James Houston, sorry. Yes, he had 1.5 sacks. I think on the year he has 2.5. That's the stat I saw because they were trying to compare him to Micah Parsons. And Dante Fowler, he felt like he's been pretty mediocre to bad all year. He's not lived up to really what I thought he was going to be, given the type of year that he had last year with Washington. But he finally showed up and acted like he knew how to play football all of a sudden. He lived in the backfield yesterday. Kenny Clark, he got him a half sack yesterday. Osa got him a sack, and Sam Williams. Sam Williams got a sack. Sam Williams, he's another one who has struggled pretty mightily so far this year, and he actually played pretty well. They didn't do the best job stopping the run. Breece Hall averaged 8.5 yards a carry. That is something that I wasn't pleased with. They did not play the run really well yesterday. But you got to give the Cowboys defense credit. I've watched the Jets a couple times this year. I think their O-line is a little better than advertised, even though they lost a player like Vera Tucker, who was supposed to be an elite type guard for them. I thought the Jets, specifically in their run game, they've been able to run the ball pretty well, and that was very evident yesterday because they dominated the Cowboys yesterday in their run game. Breece Hall, it felt like when Breece Hall was touching the ball, he was going to get 5+ yards a carry. So that wasn't a good thing to see for the Dallas Cowboys. But passing-wise, in their pass game, I think they played well because The Achilles heel for the Dallas Cowboys has always been running quarterbacks. And this was the reason why I didn't think this game was going to get so out of hand like it did, because historically the Cowboys never play well in MetLife Stadium when it just with the Jets. Now with the Giants, Dak owns the Giants, but historically when they play the Jets, they don't play well at MetLife. And another reason why they don't do well with mobile quarterbacks. We've seen that so far this year with Jalen Hurts and Caleb Williams. And then we go into this game, I'm like, Justin Fields. And this was a little downgrade on the Jets side of things. They did not have hardly any designed quarterback runs for Justin Fields at all, which was very shocking to me. But even with that, the Cowboys did not let Justin Fields scramble. Even on that 4th down call near the end of the game, Donovan Ezeraku did a good job setting the edge, and Maurice Leafau was the spy, and they get off the field on 4th down. So there was a lot of promising things that we saw from the Dallas Cowboys. Now, next week, we got another tune-up game. This is going to be a good opportunity for the defense to continue to get better at certain aspects of the game. And I also like the personnel. Shamar James had 15 tackles. Jake Sanborn, granted, we don't wish injury on anybody, but he got hurt in the game, so that gave a chance for Shamar James to really show his talent, because we know when it comes to the Dallas Cowboys and position players, it's been political on the defensive side of the ball. Someone like Wanye Thomas, who I thought should be the starting safety, he's been able to get some play now that Malik Hooker's been injured. So, and yesterday he looked like he played very well. And same thing with Jake Sanborn. He gets injured, even though I don't wish injury on anybody. He's only got a concussion, so he will be fine. But now we were able to see Shamar James, who is a rookie that you drafted and is somebody that you want to see get playing time, because that part of the defense needs speed and it needs tackling. And that is something that Shamar James was able to provide. DB play, it was okay. There was a couple of plays where Diggs, specifically early on the 4th down call, I think it might have been in the second half. I don't know. But you send a blitz, and, you've been complaining about, there was reports that went out this week about Trayvon Diggs and what went on last week. And Trayvon Diggs was like, I want to play more man coverage. And yet, the one time Eberflus calls an all-out blitz, man coverage, the ball's got to come out quick. And yet, you're playing 10 yards off the receiver, and the receiver runs a 3-yard hitch and just catches the ball on you. It's stuff like that. I mean, I thought the DBs played okay. But that's the Dallas Cowboys point of everything. The way the Jets have looked, they're the only team right now who is winless. Put that into perspective. So if you're the Dallas Cowboys, you could not ill afford to lose that game, given your schedule coming up after you face the Carolina Panthers. After the Carolina Panthers, your season is an absolute gauntlet. And I mean gauntlet. So you needed that big signature win so you can move to Carolina, get to 3-2-1, and hopefully try to make a way for a playoff push. Now, let's move to the Jets. Guys, the Jets are awful. They're just bad. I feel bad for Justin Fields. I don't think Justin Fields played particularly bad yesterday. He was 32 for 40. He dropped back and threw the ball 46 times. And he didn't turn the ball over. He had 2 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Let me make sure, but I don't think he turned the ball over. The one turnover came from Breece Hall in the fumble, and I stand correct. Granted, there was a couple of occasions to where Justin Fields threw inaccurate balls, but ultimately, I don't think Justin Fields offensively was set up for success. I don't understand how they have their best drive of the day on the very first drive, and after that, it felt like they could get nothing going on offense. Garrett Wilson, he got 71 yards on 6 catches and a touchdown. Breece Hall was able to run the ball well. And a lot of people have been saying this. Let's pivot over to the defensive side of things for the Jets. They've been very disappointing, and this is something that I've been, and I wrote down on my notes. I don't understand how they're so bad on defense, and you hired a head coach like Aaron Glenn, who is supposed to be the defensive guru, and he had very much success in Detroit, and he has not been able to translate that to New York. Quentin Williams was a no-show yesterday, and I know a lot of people like Cowherd and everybody's Shannon did last night on Nightcap has been pretty much shading Sauce Gardner so far, and they're like, oh, Sauce Gardner hasn't been the same since his rookie year. Yes, that's true. And a lot of them were saying he didn't play well yesterday. I thought Sauce played pretty good yesterday. He just gave up that one bomb to George Pickens where it was a bad play. George Pickens got a free release and just ran right past Sauce Gardner and just got beat over the top. That was pretty bad on Sauce Gardner's part. But overall, I thought he covered George Pickens pretty good because George Pickens, for the majority of the game, was a no-show. George Pickens only caught 2 balls. So I think Sauce played pretty good. But, the defense has been super disappointing. They've been giving up a lot of points. And granted, the Cowboys are a good offense, but you gave up 37 points to the Cowboys. With a team who are down 4 of their starting offensive linemen. They don't have their number 1 player on offense in CeeDee Lamb. And you allow them to absolutely destroy you. Same thing with Tua and the Dolphins last week. The Dolphins, Carolina held them to 24 points. The Jets are just bad. And when watching the game, I think that Justin Fields and Garrett Wilson is really your own bright spots, even Breece Hall. But, the Jets have had some fumble problems the last couple games. The penalties are so bad. And Aaron Glenn, he said it in his post-presser. He's saying, and one of the main talking points that he had was like, yes, we have to get better at getting rid of penalties. And yet he goes into this game and there were just so many back-breaking penalties, holdings, false starts, illegal formations. It was just all around atrocious. And there was an appalling stat that came out today. I don't think I saved it, but it was pertaining to the Jets. And it was just comically bad. It said something like the Jets were the first team in the era to lose by like double-digit points. It was something in regards to that nature. And it's not a good day for Aaron Glenn. It's not. I mean, your team for the first 4 weeks, you've played close. Even week 1, you should have honestly won the game against the Steelers. And you had people like me like, oh, the Jets could be pretty good. And now you're 0-5. It feels like the season is over with. It's just the Jets are just bad. New York sports period are just bad. And I don't know where they go from here. But to end things off, let's just finish talking about my Cowboys. I'm not about to sit here and, go on a whole tangent about, oh, my team's phenomenal, blah, 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 blah. No. The Dallas Cowboys still have a lot of work to do. And their schedule is not going to get easier. I think I don't want to get so happy about the defensive performance because this offense is absolutely atrocious. They aren't set up to succeed. If you got Justin Fields dropping back 46 times to pass, you're going to lose no matter what type of defense you play because that is not Justin Fields' game. And I feel like the offense is, and again, I'm a harp about it, the offense is Super Bowl caliber. But the defense they have so many holes. Yesterday, there was many instances they still couldn't get off the field on 3rd down. They're not athletic enough at linebacker. They're depleted at corner. And it's just the multitude of things to where it's pretty much a what-if season. What if the Dallas Cowboys had a middle-of-the-pack defense and had this same exact offense? They would be phenomenal. But sadly, they don't have a middle-of-the-pack defense. They have bottom half of the league type defense. And are the Cowboys contenders in the NFC? Right at this moment, no. Because I have to see more. in a couple of weeks when they play the Commanders and face that offense with Jayden Daniels, maybe we can talk. But I enjoyed the Cowboys game, and I think they're going to win next week. They're going to get 2-3, 2-1, and I think at home against the Commanders, they have a good shot of winning. Now let's move over to the other side of the NFC East. What about the Philadelphia Eagles? Now, I had a major problem trying to watch this game because I'm over trying to watch the Cowboys and watch the Eagles at the same time. Two key pivotal teams that I cover on a weekly basis because I despise the Eagles so much and I know their team like the back of my hand, just like my Dallas Cowboys. So I had it in my picks. I picked the Broncos plus 3.5 because I said going into this game, I was like, okay, the Broncos defensively are no sleaze. They are nothing to slide at. They are good. And if Bo Nix does not do Bo Nix things, the Broncos can win this game. I didn't care if it was at the link. Because we've seen what the Eagles have been doing offensively to where at some point it's going to come back and bite them in the rump. And ultimately, it did. Hold on, let me fix this light real fast. Horrific. Okay. That glare was getting absolutely on my nerves on my camera. All right, I think we're good. But yes, we knew what the Eagles have been doing when it pertains to how they've performed on offense. Now, the Eagles' offense, to me, is beyond mind-boggling because you have a guy in Saquon Barkley who rushed for 2,000 yards. And a lot of people have been saying, like, oh, Saquon Barkley is not going to... It's very hard to go from 2,000 yards and try and do it again. Obviously, I didn't think Saquon was going to rush for 2,000 yards again. But I thought he could have got 1,400, 1,500 yards. Guys, you rushed the ball yesterday with Saquon Barkley 6 times. Saquon Barkley, the best running back in the league, coming off of a 2,000-yard season last year. And you rushed the ball with him 6 times. I don't care about the stuff that came out about A.J. Brown. I don't. And if you're not aware, we'll go in depth in it later on this week. But there was an article over the weekend on Saturday about, we already knew A.J. Brown had his stuff going on with the offense. And then all of a sudden, Devontae Smith, Smitty, he wants to come and give his 2 cents as well. Saying the exact same sentiment. I want more touches and I want to score touchdowns. And I guess the Eagles heard this noise and Kevin Patullo was like, you know what? Let's just pass the ball a lot. Jalen Hurts, he passed the ball. And I wish I had the stat. I wanted to know the last time that Jalen Hurts has threw the ball more than 30, 35 times. It's been a long time. Usually Jalen Hurts, he's around the 25, 26, 27, 28, just the 25 to 30 range. That's a good median for Jalen Hurts when he passes the ball. I have never in a while, I have seen Jalen Hurts pass the ball almost 40 times. That is a recipe for disaster. How worried should the Eagles be after this performance? Very worried. Because again, outside of the very first drive that they had in the second half, what happened to the offense? They did absolutely, positively nothing. There's miscommunication. Jalen Hurts missed the deep ball, which would have been a back-breaking play at the point. You were up, I think they were up what? It would have been 24-3. You missed the deep ball with A.J. Brown. I don't know if that had, the videos come out. A.J. Brown stopped in the middle of his route. I guess because he, after the game, he was like, oh, I looked up and I didn't see the ball. So, who knows? We don't know if A.J. Brown just quit on the play or if Jalen Hurts shot him. I don't have a I don't have a camera angle to where I can see like when A.J. Brown actually stopped to when Jalen Hurts actually threw the ball. So I can't say if A.J. Brown stopped, if Jalen Hurts overthrew him, whatever. I think it's more likely that A.J. Brown stopped on the route because it's very rare that Jalen Hurts overthrows. He throws a phenomenal deep ball, and it was evident yesterday. He threw that deep ball to Devontae Smith, and he threw the one to Saquon Barkley in the bucket. So I think it was highly doubtful that Jalen Hurts was going to sell the ball like that. But again, they got pass happy, and A.J. Brown is still running the same bull jive routes. He's still running a slant. He's running a streak. He's running a go route. He's running a sluggo. And he's running a hitch or a curl. That's all he runs. I don't even think A.J. Brown has one crossing route in his in the playbook. Like they do not give him any type of efficient routes to run. They just don't. And if I'm Kevin Patullo, I'm worried. If I'm Howie Roseman, I'm worried. Jeffrey Lurie, I'm worried. Because every week, even week 1, I gave the Eagles a pass. I even gave the Cowboys a pass. I'm like, look, lightning delay, I understand you not showing up for a half. But every single week thus far, the Eagles keep doing the same exact thing, going non-existent on offense. Jalen Hurts is being super conservative. The Eagles cannot put together 4 full quarters of offense. They do 2 at most. And guess what? Jalen Hurts plays not to lose, and it was very evident in the last drive. I was sitting there like, you have 50, it was like 50 or 40 seconds on the clock. Jalen Hurts, you have to score a touchdown. You're down 21-17. You can't score a field goal. You have no timeouts. And Jalen Hurts throws a 4-yard hitch route to Saquon. Dude, you got 70 yards to go. You have no timeouts. You have 40 seconds. And Saquon, of course, didn't get out of bounds. So watch the clock continuing to tick. Heck, Jalen Hurts even took a sack, which is another thing that's very concerning. And I know the Broncos got a good defense. Jalen Hurts was sacked 6 times yesterday. And Nick Bonito, granted he's a great player, he got sacks off the edge against Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata. That's something that's very concerning. But it's just bonehead stuff like that. And guess what? I said this. When Bo Nix is on, he is on. He was ripping it in the 4th quarter. He kept making big play after big play. And I don't put this loss on the Eagles defense. People can say that all they want to. You cannot score. Excuse me. You cannot score 17 points in the NFL and expect to win a ball game. It just doesn't work. You got to score at least 27 points minimum. 27 points is your hot spot. 24-27 to feel comfortable offensively to win the ball game. 17 points is not going to cut it in this league in this day and age. Offenses are too good. In the league, the way the rules are settled, offense prevails. There's only so much a defense can do. And what did the Eagles do? I said it. Offensively, if they keep this crap up, it's going to come back and bite them in the rump. And it did. Because guess what? You kept giving the Broncos hope. And once you keep giving the team hope, they do what they did. And Bo Nix did what he did. Picked up a huge 3rd and 15 and got them within 1 score. Went for 2. They're up 1. No, actually, no. This was when they were down 2 scores. So picked up a huge 3rd and 15. Bo Nix made some huge throws. go down, you score, you get 10 in the fourth quarter. You come back that very next drive, go right down the field again, get a 2-point conversion, which is huge, great game management by Sean Payton. You know, he doesn't trust Jalen Hurts to go down the field and score a touchdown. He knew there's possibility that Jalen Hurts could get down the field and give him a field goal. But he didn't trust Jalen Hurts to go down there and score a touchdown. So you get the 2-point conversion, and if the Broncos get the ball back, all they have to do is chew clock, get to the Eagles side of the field, and kick a field goal. And not allow, it was a scary situation. And I was questioning myself there for a minute. I'm like, Sean Payton, we know what the Eagles special teams has been doing. And if they block this kick, so help me. And I was sitting there, I'm like, guys, if the Eagles win this game, I might absolutely spaz out. I'm sick of them winning, and they should not win this game. Thankfully, kick the field goal. It's good. And then there was another point in time, the Eagles started getting down the field. I can't remember what happened on the last play. I think they got a PI call or something like that, pass interference. And something like that. They got some type of help where they're able to get extra yards. And I was sitting there in their final drive. I'm like, watch Jalen Hurts and the Eagles get a touchdown. It was close. You know, arguably they missed a PI call there with Dallas Goedert near the end of the goal line. But, you know, it's pretty shameful that the Eagles tried to blame the referees for the reason why they lost this game. And they want to be very negligent at the fact that your offense was pretty much non-existent all game. And we know how questionable your defense is on the back end and how they particularly do not cover wide receivers well. And you're wanting all these penalties. And you know that Jalen Hurts has been struggling to throw the ball down the field. And the one time that Jalen Hurts has to, he couldn't do it. And you're wanting a PI, which it was the one on Dallas Goedert near the end zone was kind of bad. It was tic-tac, you know. But you can't blame it. You can't blame the referees for this. This was the Eagles not playing at their best and playing like they have the last couple of weeks. And yeah, it's nice to win when you have all these problems going on. But ultimately, things like this will come at some point when you face a team that has a good defense, that is capable of putting pressure on Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts got pressured. And that's why he did not, when he was pressured, he didn't particularly throw the ball well. And we saw what happened. The Broncos come out there with the win. And if I am a fan of the Philadelphia Eagles today, I'm worried. If you're a Broncos fan, you're feeling pretty good about yourself. Bo Nix showed up when he needed to make plays. The defense showed up and made plays when they needed to make plays. And shout out to that defensive line for the Broncos. They worked the offensive line for the Eagles. Granted, there was many cases where I saw Jalen Hurts. He had plenty of time to throw the ball. But ultimately, the Broncos prevail. And they feel very good right now. And if I'm the Eagles, I'm 100% worried. Now let's move away from the NFC East. No, actually, we're actually going to stay in the NFC East. I forgot about this next game we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about Chargers and the Commanders. This was a game that I was looking very much forward to watching. Because y'all know me. I'm the Jim Harbaugh guy, okay? I love Jim Harbaugh. He is arguably like my favorite coach in the NFL by far. And, you know, they lost last week to the Giants. And I was like, look, this is going to be a tune-up game, okay? I didn't know if Jayden Daniels was going to play. They announced, I think they reported like roughly Thursday or Friday that Jayden Daniels, did I say Jalen Hurts? I meant to say Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels was going to play. And they reported on Friday Jayden Daniels was going to play, but I was still like, okay, you don't have Terry McLaurin. They should still win this ball game. Well, I meant to say, in that context, it made it sound like I would say the Commanders will would win this game. But I'm going to say the Chargers should still win this game. But boy, it feels like both weeks, this week and last week, the Chargers' problems are continuing to show in the games and on tape. The Chargers' O-line's a problem. Justin Herbert, every game these last couple weeks, feels like he's running for his life back there in the pocket. He does not have any time to throw the ball. He got sacked 5 times yesterday. Not including, I don't even know, probably how many pressures they had. If the Chargers are wanting to win a Super Bowl, because they have the roster to do so, they got to fix this. Joe Alt was out, and that was huge, and it was felt at the tackle position because that's where a majority of the pressure was coming against Justin Herbert. But you got to get that fixed. And penalties, there was one point, I can't remember if it was in the second or the first half, Justin Herbert throws 2 seeds on it was like 2nd and 15, 10. It was like 15 plus yards. They were backed up, throws 2 seeds and get more penalties. It's just penalties killed big plays for the Chargers, and it felt like, honestly, this is no slight against the Commanders. I think the Commanders played well yesterday. But it feels like it's another week to where the Chargers lost just because of their self-inflicted wounds. It's like the penalties. Can't block for the quarterback. It just feels like the Chargers have just, ever since Joe Alt got hurt, it's just nosedived. It really has. And they're going to need him to be healthy. I mean, they lost Rashawn Slater, and even with that, the first couple weeks they were able to play pretty well. But ever since they lost Joe Alt, man, that offensive line for the Chargers absolutely blows. Justin Herbert, I mean, he still was efficient. The one interception that he threw was not his fault. That was very unfortunate. The ball deflected off the defender and landed right into the hands of, I think, what is that corner's name? Sambro, whatever his name is. He's number 0. Lands right in his hands. There's nothing you can do about that. 2010. I mean, you were set up for it. I don't know. And this is another problem with the Chargers. They cannot run the football. A Jim Harbaugh team, you know what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. Jim Harbaugh wants to run the football. But for the life of me, they can't do it. Amarion Hampton, averaged 3.7 yards a carry. He's hurt. He left the game early. And it seems, as of today, Adam Schefter said he's going to be out for a little while. Vidal comes in. I mean, he provided a little bit of spark, but he was slow. The one touchdown that he should have had that ended up resulting in that interception, if that was Amarion Hampton, he would have hit his head on the goalpost. But they just can't run the football, and it forced Justin Herbert to have to drop back and pass on the end zone, and what happens? You get a back-breaking pick in the end zone. So this is going to be a problem. Luckily, their division rival in the Chiefs, they have the same issues. They cannot run the football. But if you look in the AFC, I mean, the Bills, I don't think the Bills have done the best job running the football. So they have a pretty good problem. Around the AFC, every team doesn't have efficiency running the football so far that I can think of off the top of my head. All the elite ball clubs. Now, I think Denver yesterday, they were actually able to run the ball pretty decent. They ran for 4.5 yards a carry. But yeah, the Chargers, they got a lot to work on. And us in the media, we granted this team like all these accolades 3 games into the season. We're like, Chargers are the best team in the NFL. They're letting some very weaknesses be known these last couple weeks. Now let's move on to the Commanders. I don't want to give the Commanders credit, obviously, but I got to be totally just transparent. They look good on offense. Jayden Daniels can just rip it. Something I was very, very keen on in this game was how healthy Jayden Daniels was. He has that big knee brace on, and I was like, man, how mobile is he going to be? Early on in the game, I mean, just for his very first scramble. I mean, my dad, I don't know what he was talking about. He's like, he looks like he's a little slow. I'm like, dude, Jayden Daniels looked like he shot out of a cannon when he ran up in that pocket down the middle. His speed was still there. He was a little gimpy in areas here and there, but he changed cleats because he slipped on the same exact run I'm talking about. But overall, I mean, Jayden Daniels, he was ripping it. He was ripping it. I mean, completion percentage wasn't high, but Jayden Daniels really made plays when he needed to make plays. And something that they should be excited about, they are able to run the football very well. That kid, Jacory Krosky Merritt, he 7th round draft pick? Guys, if you want to know the reason why in the NFL it is so important to focus on other skill positions than the running back position in the draft early on, this kid is the reason why. Do y'all guys see how well that kid was running against that defense? A Jim Harbaugh-led defense, top 5 defense in the league? That kid was working them. He was running over everybody. That offensive line, they were bodying that defense yesterday. That was very interesting to see for Washington. Jacory Krosky Merritt, he averaged 8 yards a carry, pretty much. He had 111 yards. And it felt like the Commanders were able to run the ball at will yesterday. Deebo Samuel, he everybody talking about Deebo Samuel was looking fat, this, and that. I couldn't tell yesterday. He was working. Granted, the DBs, this is a part of the defense for the Chargers that is a question mark. But it doesn't matter. Deebo Samuel was absolutely working. Yeah, I mean, he had the most receptions by far. Jacory Krosky Merritt had 2, and every other wide receiver for Washington only had 1. So Deebo Samuel was a workhorse yesterday. And it seemed like as the game went on, he just continued to be better and better at running routes and just beating his man. He was doing a job yesterday. So he had almost 100 yards, and that's great to see because you did this without Terry McLaurin. So Terry McLaurin and Deebo, and we know Terry McLaurin, when he comes back, he's going to be super efficient. So when you see Deebo doing this, it's like, okay, yeah, this offense can be very good. Defensively, I don't love them in their secondary. It was very evident yesterday. I know the numbers don't show it, but it felt like Quinshon Johnston and Allen were pretty much open a lot. And Ladd McConkey, granted, that's a great wide receiver trio, but I feel like Lattimore is very old. He doesn't move well. What is this guy's name? He should show up in his stat sheet. Sam Ristil, number 0, Mike Ristil. He's young, but I don't think he particularly, he's okay. He doesn't cover the best. The rookie that they drafted, Trey Amos, I didn't see him much yesterday. But I think they're really young on the back end. Bobby Wagner, he's old. He's still out there working, but I just worry about him later on in the season as the season progresses, how his fatigue and how in shape is he going to be, and how healthy is he going to be. The D-line, they're pretty good. Luvu, Armstrong, those guys can get after the quarterback, and they got after Justin Herbert yesterday. So really, man, the Commanders look pretty good. They were able to notch 2 wins without Jayden Daniels being there. And I'm trying to think who they have 2 losses. I know they lost against. Okay, so they did lose to the Falcons last week. That's who they lost to. I knew they lost against the Packers. I'm sitting there like, who else did they lose to? But yeah, they were able to go 1-1 without Jayden Daniels, and with Jayden Daniels, it looks like they didn't miss a beat with Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels, everybody talking about, ooh, is Jayden Daniels going to have the sophomore slump? I think he played pretty well yesterday, in my opinion. So Herbert and the Chargers suffer their 2nd straight loss. And I want to look at their schedule. I want to know who does the Chargers have next week, because they need to get back on a win fast. They had the Dolphins at Miami. So this is an easily winnable game for them. They should win this game. Now, we said this last week, a couple weeks ago, against the Giants. But this coming up week, I think they can possibly get Joe Alt back, and they can get back on track. So the Commanders are the real deal. They're currently second in the division. And if they can just, I feel like they're still missing a few pieces to be able to compete in the NFC with the likes of the Lions. I still think the Packers are a little bit better than them, and they show more promise. And obviously Philly. But don't sleep on the Commanders. They are here to stay, and they have a chance to make some noise in the NFC. All right. Now let's move to possibly my favorite game. My favorite game of the weekend. And I don't watch the Patriots, obviously, because the Patriots have been a shell of themselves for since Tom Brady left. They have become literally one of the worst run franchises under Robert Kraft. Ever since Tom Brady left, you had the stuff with Bill Belichick. They just haven't been a good watch. Last year with Jared Mayo, I don't like how they really handled that. But they needed a necessary change. And Mike Vrabel, I have always loved as a coach. I wanted him to be the coach for the Cowboys going into this year. He was like my number one pick. I had him over Bill Belichick. I had him over Dabo Sweeney. I've always loved Mike Vrabel. Because do you know how hard it is to pretty much change a franchise? Get a franchise back on track. It is not easy to do. With a roster in New England that isn't horribly filled with talent, specifically on offense. And, this season, after a couple of games, the offense for the New England Patriots, wasn't the best. They wasn't, great. So that was something that I was pretty worried about. And so, finally, we saw what the Patriots did last week against the Panthers, put up 40 points on offense. We see what they did against the Steelers. And I was like, okay. They've had a little bit of ups and downs through 4 games. But last week they showed promise against the Panthers, specifically Drake May. And Kevin Wildes, shout out Kevin Wildes on First Things First, he had a graphic that pretty much was like, here's Josh Allen's season and Drake May's season so far. And they're pretty much a wash. They're really identical. So that shows you the MVP and Josh Allen, how he's playing this year. Drake May's got the same stats. And it hasn't showed up in, I wouldn't say the box score, but just in the games that's been played. So this was the game I was looking forward to, because I'm like, okay, I finally get to sit and consume the Patriots. And I can say, shout out Drake May. And this is huge. This is coming from a guy in me, and I can attest to this. I know you guys don't know, I've never talked Patriots on my channel, ever. But last year, I always thought Drake May was absolutely overrated. I was never in love with him. I was not in love with him at Carolina. It felt like, yes, the arm talent was there, the athleticism, but I feel like he just doesn't throw a consistent football. I don't see him as a franchise quarterback. I don't see him as a leader of men. But maybe something can change. I thought Caleb Williams was better. I thought Jayden Daniels was better. Heck, I thought Bo Nix was better. I did not see Drake May as the second, third best quarterback in that draft class last year. But man, can I eat crow today? Because Drake May yesterday, yeah, that guy's a stud. And this is coming from a guy, I'm a Duke fan, okay? Absolutely despise Carolina. And that's part of the reason why I said what I said about Drake May, because I am a certified North Carolina hater. But we got to give some credit to Drake May yesterday. he made some big throws. Like that one throw that he made to the sideline, a couple of them, specifically the first one that he made where he threw that like 30-yard crossing route to Stephon Diggs, rolling out the pocket, right in the number. Like, that was the throw. And then on the final drive of the game, stiff arming the defender off. He's getting dragged down at the same time and throws the ball right in the chest. That was a big throw. Huge throw. So Drake May was making some plays. He had a quarterback rating of 103. And here's an interesting stat about Drake May as well. In the second half, he was 13 for 14, 184 yards, 3 huge throws, and he had a passer rating of 119. What do we always say about when it comes to these young quarterbacks? Can they make plays when they need to make plays? Can they be efficient when they need to be efficient? When the bright lights get bright, can they show up? In Buffalo, on Sunday Night Football, from my imagination, this was Drake May's first primetime game from the top of my head that I can think of. Your very first primetime game. Division rival. In Buffalo. Whiteout game. All odds stacked against you. You had your team gave up horrific turnovers. Absolutely bad. Like they excuse me. Vrabel in New England, they got to get their fumble problem under wraps like fast because they have major fumble problems going on in New England. But you overcome the horrible turnovers, and Drake May goes out and puts on that type of performance, leads down a game-winning drive. That's all you can ask in your quarterback. Defensively, the defense played pretty well. Josh Allen had to work for every single throw that he had. So everything was pretty much covered on the back end. Josh Allen, he didn't have a horrible game. The one interception that he threw was bad. Shout out to 27. I think his name was like Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones? What's his name? I'm looking at it. Yeah, Marcus Jones. Marcus Jones. Yeah, I was right the first time. Marcus Jones, he undercut the route. Phenomenal play. They were able to pretty much maintain James Cook. He didn't really go crazy. He only averaged 3.3 yards a carry. They let Josh Allen scramble a little bit and get some first downs, but they held everybody in check. I mean, they let Dalton Kincaid go crazy for 100 yards, but Shakir didn't do much. Palmer didn't do much. Keon Coleman, he made a big catch near the end of the game to keep the drive alive for the Bills there near the end. But they were on the back end, led by Christian Gonzalez. They played pretty well. And the Patriots, they look like a team that can go on a little playoff run. They really do. If they can get this type of play from Drake May, I know Antonio Gibson went out of the game for a knee injury. I did not remember seeing the play. I don't know how serious it is. Antonio Gibson was crying, so I'm guessing it was pretty serious. So you're going to be without him, but you still have Travion Henderson, who has been underutilized very much. And you got Ramondre Stevenson, who has a huge fumble problem. But you have Drake May. And if you can get this kind of production out of Stephon Diggs, granted, Stephon Diggs is your best wide receiver coming off of an ACL injury, which is an indictment on the front office of the Patriots, the whole scouting department, anybody who is associated with what's it called? Player personnel coordinator. This is an indictment on you because Stephon Diggs being your number one receiver is an absolute issue on any roster. But if you can get just a fraction of this type of production from Stephon Diggs, 150 yards catch receiving, yeah, they can be successful. And if they can continue to get the run game going, Travion Henderson averaged 4 yards a carry. They just got to get that going just a little bit. And Kayshon Boutte, I mean, he can make some plays here or there, but if they can continue to play good to pretty great defense like they did last night, and if the offense can just not turn the ball over and score, the Patriots can make the playoffs. But now let's move over to the Bills. The Bills, and it says it in the lower third of mine, this is their first loss to the Patriots in 5 years, roughly. The last time they lost to them were in 2020. But I don't want to... This wasn't a jarring, like, embarrassing loss like the Eagles had. Both the Eagles and the Bills were undefeated. This loss for me is nowhere near the same stratosphere as the Eagles. I thought they turned the ball over. They wasn't buttoned up. They had a lot of key penalties that were pretty back-breaking. I think Josh Allen, he didn't play horribly bad. Receivers wasn't open. And I think they're fine. They didn't play nowhere near as bad as the Eagles. It's just my only thing that concerns me with the Bills is outside of Josh Allen, who do you have that is like, who is your CeeDee Lamb on offense? Who is your A.J. Brown on offense? Who is your Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs? They don't have that type of player. You got James Cook, but he's not very utilized in the past game. For some odd reason, I don't understand why. But as far as the receiving core, Khalil Shakir, he's okay. He's nobody you're scared about, and you have the scheme again. Same thing with Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman is a guy that they've possibly wanted to get going, but he has not been able to get going into the potential that they would have liked him to be. Dalton Kincaid, he's good, but he just doesn't scare you. But that's my only thing with the Bills. The Bills, they don't have that player outside of Josh Allen that's like, yep, we need to game plan for this guy. And it's very alarming. I want the Bills are my Super Bowl pick out of the AFC. I want the Bills to go to the Super Bowl. I love Josh Allen. I love how he's played. The fan base deserves it. It feels good for football if the Bills win the Super Bowl. But I don't love their defense, specifically the corners. They were banged up on the defensive line. I think Ed Oliver didn't play last night. They have a good defensive front, healthy. But that back end, you let Stephon Diggs get 150 yards. That's a problem. And it's the Bills have been able to do whatever they wanted to do against the AFC East the last couple of years. Granted, the Dolphins have made the playoffs, but they've had no competition. And if the Patriots, knowing if they found their quarterback finally, and they can continue to use those draft picks to add skill position players for Drake May, and maybe even trade for players, if you're Josh Allen and the Bills, like, you gotta, the time is now. Like, we gotta win. Like, we have to win ASAP. This year is the year. When you have teams like Kansas City, who we don't know what they're going to look like under full strength. We've seen what's happened with the Chargers. They can be had. Denver, they can be had. And this is the NFL period this year. I think the NFL is wide open. I don't think one team is like absolutely dominant like the Eagles of last year. I just don't think every team is beatable this year. I don't think there's like a bona fide like, oh, yep, that team is going to the Super Bowl this year. There's not. Because everybody's Super Bowl pick, from the Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, all of these teams have flaws. And they are evident. So if you're the Bills, the time is now. And something that Peter Schrager brought up on First Take this morning, it's like, you had the chance to win this game to go undefeated, and it could be pretty pivotal for you to get the first overall seed this year. And losing a game like this to the Patriots, that's no slouch. That's a big deal. But that's something that we need to monitor with the Bills is games like this. Whenever you get too Josh Allen reliant, and you don't have that player that you can really go to make a play, you get yourself in positions like this to where it's a close game. You're not able to make the play that you need to make, and you had to settle for a field goal, and the Patriots were able to just go down the field, led by Drake May, and score the game-winning field goal. So, yeah, I think the Patriots are good. I think essentially the Patriots are pretty much one piece away, a couple of pieces away from just these next couple of years. If I'm a Patriots fan, I'm happy, and I'm excited for the future under Mike Vrabel and the guys. But ladies and gentlemen, that is all I have for today. Capped it out at an hour exactly. And for some reason, now more than usual, I'm very fatigued right now talking. I don't know why. My throat is dry and my chest is hurting a little bit. I have no idea why that is going on. But I was able to power through it. But I thank you guys so much for joining me. I hope you all enjoyed. Make sure you look at my reposts from the last couple of episodes and check out my other episodes in the description below and on my channel card. What am I missing? I want to get something with Hall of Heroes done this week. Today we're going to get back. I had a busy week last week because of going out of town and stuff on vacation, but we got a good stat week this week, and I'm gonna get a lot of stuff done. So I will see you guys on Wednesday. And do not hesitate to like the podcast, share it to your friends and family, and be on the lookout for my next episode. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace, love, and positivity always, y'all. See you.